Hi, everyone. It is Wednesday. Thank you for joining me for this first Women's History Month edition of Trap Chat Live. Today, I am joined by an esteemed guest, one of my favorite peoples, my Aunt Paulette, who I'm sure she will tell you I am her favorite niece by relation. So all the blood nieces, calm down. Yes, I am 100% her favorite niece. Spent a lot of time with her growing up and got to see her just be one of the hardest working people that I have ever met. Had no idea how she managed to juggle a career that kept her in demand, a whole lot of children, a whole lot of grandchildren, and now some great grandchildren to go along with it. Then she retired and said, "You know what? I'm about that life, and I'm going back to work." Going back to school, getting not just a bachelor's degree, but a master's degree as well. So, again, I'm very proud of her. And as I always say, I'm going to share my blessings with you all. So, I'm happy to welcome my Aunt Paulette. You guys can call her POT, the notorious Paulette Thompson. Hi.
Hey.
Are you going to introduce yourself or no?
Yes, I think you just did a good job of introducing
Oh,
me.
thank you.
And though I have about 30 or 35 nieces, because I come from a huge family, but Keirsten knows I must love her if I'm appearing on this live show, because it's just not what I do. I like to be more of a background person, but I agreed that I would be on today. Currently, well, not currently. I was married for 53 years before my husband passed 2 years ago. I have 4 children, 13 grands, and 6 great grands. And we are all very close. And that's just on my side of the family. You know, I have, I'm not even going to count how many nieces and nephews I have. I did retire back in 2000 from AT&T. Because I'm a type A personality, that kind of didn't suit me or my lifestyle. Even though I was also supporting my husband because he was a minister, pastoring his own church. But I needed to do something else, so I didn't actually actively look for positions. I was sought after by colleagues and people that I met in my previous life to ask me to come and help them out in organizations, in planning. Because I know that I can be a pain. I see something and if it's not being done right, you try to say, well, it's really not my business, but then it becomes my business because I can't stand it anymore. So they knew that I was like that and that I would get things done. And I'm still that way. I'm sure my kids will tell you that. So I am, like I said, a type A. I currently work with AARP Experience Core Foundation. And we're an organization that partners seniors along with children who are at least a year to a year and a half behind in their literacy skills. And they do tutoring in the schools where it's a nationwide organization. I work with Philadelphia. I'm right now a regional coordinator, and I handle technical issues, and I do the training with the tutors that are in the schools. A very necessary undertaking. It also, and we have retired teachers, retired attorneys, retired principals. There are, and just normal people who retired and decided that they wanted to give back, which is the reason that I joined the organization. It is a really great organization, a really worthwhile organization. We do get results. We do work on different benchmarks, and we do get results, and it actually benefits our children, especially our inner city children who may not have the luxury of beautiful school buildings and different situations in their life that call for not just the tutoring to get their literacy skills up, but in mentoring. We also work on social and emotional learning for the children so that they can know who they are, know why they act the way they do, be able to make, responsible decisions, and to sometimes help to turn their lives around. So that's what I am currently doing, along with working with my family and my, as Keirsten said, many grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Yes, like I said, you are one of the hardest working people I know. So we're going to start from my beginning, because I am very young for my age. Just putting that out there. Yes, I said that. But I remember I used to spend a lot of time at your house because Tanea is your first to youngest daughter is the same. Is a year older than me, so we were brought up collectively as more sister cousins, and actually, between my brothers and sisters and Tanea's brothers and sisters, we were more like brothers and sisters than we were cousins. So spent a lot of time, at your house, and I'm gonna tell you the only thing that made me mad when I was growing up was. Not that you spent a lot of time at work, but that sometimes when it was time to go to church, for example, you would make a phone call and have us ride with Uncle Larry instead of picking us up and taking us. And for anyone who doesn't know, my uncle was not the fastest driver, and it was. And Paulette could leave 45 minutes after us and beat us to church. I'm just going to leave it. Hey, I'm not making that up. That's a true statement. I stand by it. But you were, I think that for a lot of us, we're fortunate. My generation in particular, my contemporaries, and even some of my coworkers, we were brought up in a time where our parents were in, especially our mothers, because it is Women's History Month, our mothers were in quote unquote professional roles, office jobs, not just finding success as, these so-called gender roles like a teacher or a nurse or something like that, or a domestic worker. And there's nothing wrong with any of those jobs.
Right.
But, you guys worked outside of your home. And a lot, and again, like I feel like we were the first people to have that, because you guys didn't have that. Your parents may have worked outside of the home, but again, they worked in tasks and they worked in jobs that others would say, oh, well, you're not a successful person because your career isn't glamorous or it doesn't bring in a lot of money. So what was that even like? And again, you're young for your age as well. So like, what was that like as a, recently married, going to work person, choosing a job? Like, how did you even engage that, knowing that you didn't have really an example outside of, you didn't have an example in your immediate circle?
I don't know. I guess I wouldn't say we didn't have an example. My mother was at home with us. I mean, there were 11 of us. Okay. So, and my dad worked 2 full-time jobs, but they were both very, I don't want to say career-oriented. They were driven to make sure that their family was taken care of. Even though there were 11 of us, not many people knew that there were 11 of us, because my parents kept us dressed well. We spoke well. We were not allowed to use slang. We had responsibilities. So I did get my work ethic from my parents, because, in our age, when your parents got up in the morning, you didn't lay in bed. Okay. When they got up, you got up. And that's just the way it was. With my brothers, with my dad went out to work, they went out to work. They always had a job. That was responsibility. We always gave back to the family. So I think my work ethic did come from my parents' views and the way that we were raised. We all had responsibilities. We all took care of a younger sibling. Sometimes my mother did what was called days work. When my grandmother lived with us, and she went out and did days work in other people's homes. So we saw how they sacrificed for us. and we saw what they did for us. So I think they did instill in us, a work ethic and the desire to accomplish something. And that accomplishment, no, it was not to make millions of dollars, to drive the finest car, even to have the most highly thought of position, but to whatever we did, to do our best. So, I did get that from them.
Yeah. So I like I said, I've been thinking a lot about this because, I've really been feeling sad for the past maybe 3 years as it relates to especially Black women and how they are made to feel like if you don't have what you just said, the right car, if you don't have this prestigious job, that you're not quote unquote successful. And that bothers me because, like I said, because of where I came from. And I'm wondering if it is my generation, Generation X, who shifted that and who decided that we had to have it all, so to speak, to be successful. How would you define success? Or how have you defined success for yourself?
Success is basically what you choose it to be. What are you looking for? What are you trying to accomplish? And it is the accomplishment of that aim or that goal that you're going after. I think what happens in your generation that I see, you let other people define for you what your success is. Okay. It's not what someone else thinks. It's what you feel that you have accomplished. And I think that we, my generation, and I talk to your mom about this all the time, we went after trying to give you guys what we didn't have. So we didn't let you know the struggle. You didn't know what it took for us to give you the things that we gave you. Okay. We made it look easy. You did. And it wasn't easy. Okay. So, that is our fault because we didn't let you see the struggle. When we were growing up, if you wanted that new bike, we worked for it. We babysat. My brothers had a paper route. They bagged groceries at one of the little corner stores. They shoveled snow. And we would put our money together. We may only have 2 bikes for 11 kids, but we paid for that. Okay, right. Because our parents did not feel that that was a necessity of life. Food, clothing, a nice home to live in. That was what they saw as success on their part. We didn't do that with you. We gave you things. We made sure that you had the best of things. We moved away from the city to let you go to the best of schools. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I give back with Experience Core Foundation, because, your Uncle Larry and I talked about it as we got older. I mean, our kids went to one of the greatest schools, districts, Tredyffrin Eastern School District in the country. Okay, where because we moved out of the city in order to accomplish that. Okay. And so I decided to give back. And that's why I do what I do. Uncle Larry decided to give back. When it is in Philadelphia, as a part of the police clergy, he worked with young men, 12 to 15 years old, whose fathers were incarcerated, trying to stop them from taking that same route. So, maybe people don't think that those are great accomplishments, but I feel it's an accomplishment. And to me, it's what I think, not what you think, not what the world thinks. So if you are going to base your success on other people, you're going to be really disappointed.
Ooh, I have to write that down. I'm going to repeat that. If you're going to base your success on other people, you are going to be disappointed.
That is exactly right.
Ooh, well.
Because people are not going to give you your due, because many people may be jealous. There's many reasons why other people think what they do, about you. Don't judge your success on what someone else thinks. It's what you think you've accomplished.
Yes. Let's talk about these accomplishments of yours. So again, I sometimes conflate the stories that you guys tell us, but I believe you were an operator, like a telephone operator at Bell Telephone.
Yes, I started at Bell Telephone, And when I started at the Bell Telephone, I was actually a cord board operator.
Now, what is
I was
that?
18 years old, fresh out of high school, and I was a cord board operator. And in that time, there were not many people of color in management positions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there were people of color in the non-management position as operators, but not many people of color. And I was actually not really actively looking for a job at Bell Telephone. I had actually gone to school to be a general hygienist. And one of my girlfriends, I was out with her, and she said, well, I have to go for this interview. Would you come with me? I said, sure. So I went with her, and we were talking in the lobby and whatever, and they called her in, and this lady comes out. And she said to me, are you here for an interview? I said, no, I'm just accompanying one of my friends. She says, you have a very unique voice. Would you mind interviewing with me? And I said, okay. And so I did. The next few days, I interviewed with them. They literally came out to my neighborhood. They interviewed my parents. They interviewed my neighbors. That's what they did in the beginning. A telephone company. They were very, very, very strict on who they hired. I had been offered a position at the Naval Hospital right there on 30th, around 34th Street, as a dental hygienist. And my parents helped me through that process. I went to Temple to do it. They didn't have a lot of money, but they could kind of help me. And I worked as a tray server at University of Pennsylvania to help finish paying for that, for me to go and get that. But they offered me $30 a week more than the Naval Hospital was offering me. So I took it, and that began my career. And I wasn't too keen about the fact that in my training and whatever, seeing that people just did not take care of their mouths as far as brushing their teeth. I'm just being transparent. I wasn't too cool on that anyway. So that started my career, and I moved up, quickly, from a cord board operator to the business office, where we dealt with business customers and other clients. And you didn't just get promoted. You had to go to an assessment center. You went to assessment center, and in this assessment center, they not only gave you situations that you had to solve, they not only gave you written tests to do, they would take you to lunch, and I swear they were watching how we ate. I mean, that's how strict it was. And, I actually passed with flying colors. I was one of the few Black females in the Philadelphia region who finished that course with a more than qualified. So I moved up. But, one thing, and just getting out of Black History Month, and it's just really funny because one of my granddaughters said to me that, they gave us the shortest month in the year to celebrate. I said, you are absolutely right. But anyway, so when I was first moved up, my actual friends, people of color, said to me, oh, you got that promotion because they needed a Negro, that's what they were called on those days, in the boardroom, and you were the right color. Those are my friends who said stuff like that. So, and that's what I'm saying about determining your success, because you have people, you don't know how people see you. I can't help what color I was. My mother was extremely fair. And my dad was darker. So the 11 of us, we came out in many different colors, coffee with one cream, coffee with two cream, coffee with no cream, coffee with all cream. We came out all different colors. And so we learned, to deal with people of all denominations. Also, our neighborhoods at that time were very mixed.
Yeah.
So if I was to judge if I was a very sensitive person, and I was kind of an introvert, my career made me extroverted. But if you took the Myers-Briggs and whatever, I come up as an introvert every time. But if I had been extremely sensitive and listened to them, that could have just made me not do my best, because I was thinking in my head, well, they didn't put me here because I deserve to be here. They put me here because of the color of my skin. Okay, so that's why I'm saying you can't judge your success by other people, because that sort of stuff, you know yourself, happens every day. And when it happens from a friend, it can be very daunting. And I just continued to move up, and I did traveling. You know, I had a wonderful husband who, and I know one of my daughters is on here, and she'll tell you when she was little, I mean, I would travel. I would be away for weeks, come home on a weekend if I was out in California, and I would put their clothes in the closet and I would label them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, gym, you know, cooking. That's how they were labeled, so that he would know, you know, what clothes to put on him, you know, at that time. So, and then I just continued to, you know, to move up, you know, in the company from the business office to training and design and then to human resources. So, which was my favorite part of dealing with the people. So, and I wasn't looking for that career path. I was looking, as we were taught to do when we grew up. You graduate high school, you get a job, you get married, you have kids. That's the way it is. And as I think back now, I was an excellent student, but I did not have counselors and teachers, because many of our counselors and teachers at that time were of Caucasian persuasion. They did not give us the information that maybe we could have had. And I don't think back then they had grants and stuff for parents who had multiple kids. I don't think that happened. But they never gave me any advice or whatever of how I could have gone to college and gotten assistance. I didn't get that from my counselors, and I did not get that from my teachers. Right. So we had to kind of make our way, and we were blessed that we had parents who neither one of them finished a formal education, because they left their jobs to help take care of their families. But my parents were very smart people. My mother was an avid reader. By the time each of us got into school, kindergarten, we could read, because that's what we did. I was blessed with great parents who had values and who put those values on us. So that makes a difference.
I like what you just said. And I think, and that's definitely how I started our conversation, with you saying, like, you didn't have those examples. No. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful, you know, for your example. I mean, not just as a professional woman, but also as someone in human resources. I mean, that's the field that I chose. Yes. No slight to my mother, but I am just not good at math. So I was not going into finance and trying to follow in her footsteps. I didn't do that.
I know. You give your mom some numbers, she throw them in a spreadsheet, and there you go. Yes. That's what she does.
That's exactly what she does. And I don't know.
She's good at that. She's good at that.
Yeah, that gene skipped me, because my father is good with numbers as well.
Yes.
I mean, he can tell you the price per ounce and gram of anything in the supermarket. But no, not me. So let's stay there. You said that human resources was your favorite in your, you know, before your pre-retirement phase of your career. That human resources was your favorite job. And why is that?
Because I had the opportunity to truly mentor people, you know, and it was not always a good situation. I had people who were on the verge of being terminated, and talking with them and trying to get them on the right path. And there were people that I had to terminate, but I still have people from those times that I had to terminate who still call me, who still send me pictures of their children, you know, who still send me cards on the holidays. And I would always try to get through to the management team that sometimes you're going to have to let people go, but there's absolutely no reason to take people's dignity. Okay, you need to let someone go. You know, they need to know why they're going. You can't just all of a sudden tell somebody today that they're being terminated because they've gotten on your nerves for 6 months. So what did you do about it for 6 months? You know, what did you do to try to make them successful? And some people I'd say, no, I'm not terminating because you have no documentation here. I'm just supposed to take your word for it. No, you didn't document it, then it didn't happen. So, and sometimes people would let people go, you know, with animosity, and there's no reason for that. You know, you always let people keep their dignity. And so I like that aspect of it because I was able to actually mentor some people and to turn some people around. And one of the saddest stories that I'm dealing with is a young man. He was in his 20s and he was bipolar. He schizophrenic. I'm sorry. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia when he was 20 years old. And, he worked with us and they did work with him. And he was absent a lot. He didn't come back a lot. And he committed suicide. And they found a note. His mother sent it to me, and he was thanking me for the time I spent with him, the times I sat and talked with him. And he said, "But I'm sorry, but the doctors taught me to live with all this medication. No one taught me to live without it." So that was very sad, for me. But that he took the time to send me a thank you note, and I still have it somewhere, in my trunk. So, but those were the best times because I was able to work with people and mentor people and really talk to people and off the books and say, okay, look, here's how it really is. This is it. You've got to do this or you're not going to be here long. So I like that part of it because of that.
Yes. And thank you for that. I think that you're talking about leaving people with their dignity is resonating with a lot of people. And I do think that we take for granted the humanness of being in human resources. And we get out here and we just consider it a job. I told one of my friends the other day, someone said, you can't take this personally. You gotta take the human out of it. You gotta take the emotion out. You gotta take the feelings out of it. And I said, I can't do that. Like I can't disconnect my job from who I am because of the job that I have. Like it serves no one for me to do that. I'm not. If they did, then they can just get robots to do my job, which I hear they're trying to do anyway. But that's a different conversation. So after we're running short on time, but and I think you have a lot of insight to offer. So I want to get to the rest of the topics. You did say that, after 20 some years, you retired from a wonderful corporate career. And then you, at some point, went back to school and shifted gears a bit.
Yes. And when I went back to school, it was not necessarily because I was trying to shift gears in a career. It was to meet my goals for myself. And I went back because I was in business and, I'm the type of person that, and your mom and I will tell you when you get these group messages that, oh, this happened and you need to do this about it. And I will not take that just because someone sent it in a group message. I'm going to research it, so I kind of get on people's nerves that way. And I know I do. So I research it first and find out exactly what is true and what is not. But I went back, for different reasons. I felt that I needed to strengthen if I was going to be out there, which I was because, I worked in different industries as people were calling me to help. And I needed to do more about learning about business, So, I went to University of Phoenix because I could go there online. It was one of really the first online colleges that were out there. And I did that and I got my bachelor's of science in business. And then as Uncle Larry was a minister, and because we were AME, we moved from church to church. And depending on the areas that we were in, I was seeing just things that disturbed me about some of our children. And I grew up in the city. I loved the city. And I grew up in the city. It was a great place. People cared about one another. You knew your neighbors. You always had the newsy neighbor down the street. You couldn't get away with anything because they were going to certainly tell your parents. They looked out after you. My brothers were, when it snowed, they had to clean the steps on both sides of our house. The streets were clean. And that's what we were taught. We were taught to be a community, and we've lost that right now. So, but as I was going back into the city after we moved away, even though our churches were in the city, I'm looking at the city, and I was looking at what's happening. And I'm saying, what the heck happened to our city? So I went primarily to get an understanding of what happened to why did our cities deteriorate like this? You know, we should be proud Black people. You know, my dad always said there's no harm in being poor, but there is a harm in being dirty and not taking care of your things and not taking care of yourself. We can have beautiful cities. There's no reason for our cities to look like they do. No reason for these areas, and I hate that term ghetto, to look like they do. There's no reasons for the street to be dirty. There's no reason for people to not keep up the areas where they live. Okay, right. You know, so I wanted to find out what happened. So I took mainly, looked for a degree in urban studies to understand urbanism and what was happening. And also then I had an opportunity to not just major in urban studies, but to minor in youth development, which was also, you know, one of the things that I was very interested in. So I went to Eastern University and I got the degree in urban studies and youth development. I was in about 64 when I got my bachelor's, and I had just turned 70 when I got my master's. Okay, so it wasn't easy, you know, when you get a certain age. You know, I always joke and say memory's the first to go. And so I'd sit there reading a book, and you know, and I read it, and I'd go back and I say, "What the heck did I just read?" So that I have to read it. I have to do it over again. So, but I like telling that story to young people because I let them know it's never too late. Yes. You know, it is never too late. And I believe in continuous education. You know, it's never too late. They can always accomplish their goals. You know, you may be deferred for a bit for whatever reasons because life happens. Okay, but it's never too late to go back. So, you know, I did that for that reason, to kind of understand what was going on with our youth and what was going on with our cities. And I read an awesome book, which is really great. And I forget the author, and it's called The Code of the Streets. Okay. And I read that because of the gun violence and whatever. And it kind of explains, you know, if you're graduating hundreds of children from school who can't read, they can't fill out an application, they can't even get in the Army anymore because you have to take a test, they're certainly not going to college, then they revert to the streets, because unfortunately those people out there are a little bit kinder to them than the rest of the world is. You know, so I did that for that reason, not to make any further advancements or whatever, but to understand things for myself. You know, as I said, I'm a researcher. I have to understand why, you know, things are happening. Okay.
I love that. And then, you know, we're back full circle. So you're now teamed up with AARP.
Experience Corps Foundation.
Experience Corps Foundation. Thank you. Experience Corps Foundation. And it's my understanding from your oldest daughter that you wrote a lot of proposals and things to get.
Well, I wrote a lot of proposals for the organization, another organization that I'm dealing with, actually through our missionary society. Okay. It's called Project Leap. Okay. And there are 4 of us. And what we do with Project Leap is that we had a program with young ladies from the ages of 17 to 40 who had not received a high school education. And we worked with them through politicians helped us. Different stores helped us. We partnered with South Philadelphia High, who has a night school program. So it wasn't a GED program. They literally went through and got their high school diplomas. Nice. And, you know, they graduated. And we worked with them. We got secured childcare for them while they went to school. McDonald's, several of the other companies would take them in and give them part-time jobs. If they needed housing, we referred them to, because we did not have that background. So we would refer them to the organizations that would help them. Many of those girls graduated over the last 10 years. And, you know, we're very proud of that. So we had to do proposals because if you wanted grants and whatever, we did, you know, write different proposals and whatever. And in order to help them. So we are still doing Project Leap on a smaller scale at the moment because COVID kind of pushes to the background. Because we would have seminars, we would have different people in. Because I invited you to come in one time and you couldn't, remember, to talk to young girls about yourself, about your career, about your accomplishments. We invited people in who did not have the best of life, because some of these girls had some horrible stories. Okay, true stories. And so we invited people in who had lived those lives and overcome those lives. Okay, so that because we felt that they were more prone to listen to people who had experienced what they were telling them about, and not people who were talking to them because they read about it. You know, they got more out of people saying, okay, well, here I am. We had one seminar where one of the speakers said to the girls, I'm just telling you right now, I can sit here and I can look around this room and I can tell you, which several of you, I can tell you exactly what drug you took before you came here. She said,
oh, wow.
Because I was there. She said, my life was almost in ruins before I turned it around. So we tried to have people who actually experienced life issues that these girls had experienced, so they can tell them exactly what they did, because a lot of them think they have no hope. You know, they don't realize that there is hope. I mean, just like in the city of, in many of the cities, it's a crime to be homeless. You know, it's a crime to be homeless. That's how they're treated. So there's a lot that a lot of people can do. I don't think that people realize that there's a lot they can do. They don't have to have a lot of funds. They don't have to have grants. They can just spend a couple of hours, you know, helping those who actually need help. And if it's only just someone to talk to. So, yes, we do that with that program.
Okay. And then Experience Corps is with the schools.
Yes.
And you're helping children that are, like you said, behind.
At least 6 months to a year behind in their literacy skills. Okay. And you work with those students to get their literacy skills up, because from kindergarten to third grade, you learn to read. From fourth on, you read to learn. If you are not able to read by the time you're in the fourth grade, most of that is research. You know, when you're reading, you do your test because of that. You're lost, and you're going to continue to be lost unless someone steps in and helps. And this program has helped thousands of children, you know, to overcome those deficits. And again, you know, in many of our cities, children come from varying backgrounds with varying challenges, and people want to say it's the young mothers and whatever. I have encountered like wonderful young single moms, wonderful young single dads. Okay, it's not all them. Okay, some of them are just great, you know, and they do the best they can with their children. So we have to kind of stop pigeonholing people, you know, and stop putting them all in the same box, because it's not the truth.
I appreciate that. So I want to wrap this up neatly, because as you've been talking, you know, you brought me back full circle. And just like I mentioned, that my purpose for wanting you to kick off not just Women's History Month, but my success series, is because you have 100% been one of those people who has cleared a pathway for success, not just by, you know, the things that you instilled in us, or, you know, the encouragement that you gave us, but just by being you. And I don't know that you knew that growing up, while we were growing up, because I didn't know that growing up. You know, I was a dumb teenager, a dumb kid. But, you know, I can always reflect back on those things. Like I said, like the way that you interacted, not just with our families, but, you know, in the community, in the church, on your job, all of that has really resonated with me. And I'm just grateful for your generation who, like you said, may not have had the mirror examples. Like, you know, you weren't waking up and saying, I want to be, you know, a lawyer or a doctor, or, you know, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. You know, you were saying, I want to define success for myself. And that's helped me a great deal. And I just wanted to thank you. And also to share you with my peeps. And you have a lot of fans out here. I've been trying to put up as many comments as I can, but you really resonated with us. Do you want to close out with anything? Maybe say hello to the 400 people that are part of your legacy.
I know. I just want to say, as I said before, don't let other people define who you are. Don't let other people define your success. It's what you choose to accomplish and what you know that you can accomplish. And of course, one of my favorite scriptures is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I totally believe in that. And I totally believe in prayer. And because it really, really helps. It has helped me, over many hurdles, so just believe in yourself. Okay. Believe in yourself. Treat other people well. There's never an excuse to treat people badly. Never an excuse. And sometimes, of course, you have to really pray about it and think about it, but there's never an excuse.
Right.
So define yourself. Don't be defined.
Oh, I love that.
That's what I feel.
I might put that on a shirt. I'll credit you though. All right, folks. So normally I would give you the opportunity to reach back out to my guest, give you their social handles. I am not going to do that today because like she told you, she has 4 children, 13 grandchildren, 6 great grandchildren, 30 plus nieces and nephews, although I am the favorite, and cousins and siblings and all these things, friends, and 2 jobs, a partridge and a pear tree. So no, you are not reaching out to my aunt. Oh, and she's also a social media influencer because she does videos for the local moving company. As one of her additional jobs. So no, I'm not giving you information, but I am going to invite you all to come back. Shocker, tomorrow for another success story. I'll be talking to Yvonne Keirsten, who is an entrepreneur, who is a brand marketing leader. You will get some wonderful tidbits from her as well. So do join us tomorrow. And then on the 9th, another special treat, the 16th. Woo, it's going to blow your mind. The 23rd. I might be taking the day off because I do have another presentation to give at around the same time. And then we're going to wrap up on the 30th with another one of my gems, another one of my mentors and someone who's inspired and encouraged me in my HR career. So make sure you come back. Like I said, come back tomorrow if you can. And if not, we'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you again, Aunt Paulette. Love you too.
You're welcome. Love you.
Tell everyone I'm the favorite. All right. That's another Trap Chat Live. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.